Greetings, everybody. I'm Jeremiah.
That's him.
She's Vania.
That's me. Welcome to another episode of the Beard and Curls podcast, where culture and creativity meets consciousness.
And if you're new here, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite platform for the latest, most exciting conversations anywhere.
You ready?
I'm ready. Cue that intro.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, Margot Bingham.
Karen Parsons.
You're now tuned in.
You're now tuned in.
You're now tuned in.
You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in
to Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls. Keep it locked.
Today's guest majored in communication studies.
She's passionate about traveling, cultures, and people, but more importantly, she loves helping people improve themselves.
We're talking about none other than Crystal Wong.
Crystal, welcome to the show.
Ooh, hi, I'm so excited.
Awesome. We're glad to have you on here. Today, we're going to be talking about your experiences dating interracially. But before we dive into that, first tell us, what is your ethnicity and what is your partner's ethnicity?
Awesome. So I'm Chinese American and my boyfriend Marlon is Mexican American.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about how you guys met?
Yeah, so we actually met online. We met on Bumble, and the crazy thing, it was like, I think 2 weeks before lockdown happened. So that was crazy, but we made it work, and here we are.
Wow. And so tell us a little bit more about how that process went.
So honestly, at that time, I was at a point in my life where I was getting a little bit frustrated when it came to dating because I would date a whole bunch of guys and nothing was clicking, and I'm the kind of person, I romanticize everything. So I'm all about like dating one person at a time. But I realized that most guys are not like that on social media dating. And I don't want to call them out or anything, but I just think intentions are a little bit different. So actually, when I started dating him, I was also seeing 4 other guys. And it was more just dating to get to know them, but most importantly, dating to get to know myself a little bit more, what I like, what I don't like. And this was something a really good friend of mine encouraged to do. She was like, you need to stop dating one person at a time. Just date a pool. It's fun. You have no commitment to any of them. And, when I was dating 4 different guys, they slowly just, dropped off. And then I landed with the best one. And it's been going really, really good so far. I'm getting red thinking about it.
I always say it's not your job to eliminate them. It's their job to eliminate themselves.
Exactly. It's very easy for most guys. I'm just kidding. There are good guys out there.
It's not necessarily, I don't see it playing the field or anything like that. You're on a dating website, so you're going to attract attention. And
exactly.
People come, and if they're not the right person, they're naturally just going to fall back anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because till this day, my boyfriend is still he still gets butthurt about it. He'll bring it up you were dating 4 guys at once.
If you want to call it dating.
Yeah. I was no.
Yeah, maybe you were getting to know people. Yeah, or maybe you were interviewing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so funny because that was actually the first thing I said to him. I walked into BJ's and I was I sat down and I was oh my God, I feel like I'm getting interviewed right now.
Yeah, but it's true because it's actually asking questions to see if you guys have things in common. Well, yeah. But I totally understand his side too because that feeling that he could have. Yeah. But, I'm glad you guys found each other.
Well, thank you.
And,
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we always hear about, people say love is love and all of that. But what was your family's reaction to you guys dating, considering that, it's different cultures and stuff like that?
Yeah. And this is not me stereotyping or anything, but my mom, the first thing she said was, honestly, I'm not surprised you're going to date a Mexican because growing up, that was your favorite meal.
Oh.
Okay. But I will say on my side, I'm very blessed because my parents, they're very, very open. They've never told me I can't date a certain group of people. And I know that that's not necessarily the case with a lot of Chinese cultures. So I don't want to be stereotyping the Chinese culture, but it was common to hear my friends say oh, my parents only want me to date Chinese. You know what I mean? So I was very blessed. My parents, they love him. And at the end of the day, they don't care as long as someone treats me right. They don't care what kind of race they are, what kind of ethnicity they are.
Nice. And what about things on his end with his family?
Honestly, I I think it was a little bit of a shock to him because I'm the first Chinese girl he's ever really brought home, or like non-Hispanic or Latina. So I think to them, it wasn't bad at all. Like, they were super kind to me. Like, they welcomed me with open arms. Like, so I don't think there is an issue with that.
Awesome.
good.
Awesome.
So tell us a little bit about your family values compared to his.
Yeah, so I will have to say, when it comes to work ethic and when it comes to respect, it's very, very much similar. I think because we both came from immigrant families who obviously worked really, really hard to come here for the American dream. So work ethic is a big thing. Like, his parents, they're very, very hard workers. And I have to say the same about my mom and dad. And so they kind of motivate us to want to be better in our careers. Like, we constantly have conversations about, you know, our future and like what that entails. And we go, and I know some of you guys hearing this or listening might be like, you guys have only been dating for like, what, 10 months? And like, you guys are already talking about your future. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not here to waste time. Like, I want to build something with a partner. And I think those are values that were instilled by both of our families. And in terms of respect, like, we're very, very family oriented. I think that was the first thing I told him. I was like, hey, like, at the end of the day, my family is everything to me. So they're a big deal. And he said the exact same thing. And not to say like if his family didn't like me or my family like him, we wouldn't try to make it work, but it just makes that battle so much easier. You know what I mean? It's just so more smooth. And I think that family values are something very difficult to teach someone. It's not something that you can just, so the fact that we connected on that level was a big thing. In terms of other things, I have noticed my family growing up, we're not, how do you say it? Not saying that we're not affectionate people, but it takes a lot for us to say words like, I love you. And we're not very like huggy at the table or when we go to each other's houses and stuff. But then like when I went to meet his family, they're right away like, oh, hi, Mija, like, hi, mama. And they just like hug you, kiss you. They love on you, you know? So in that way, I think there's different ways we show affection. And I think that was very apparent when we met each other's family.
That's what's up. So I was actually going to follow up on something else you just said a little while ago. So like, even if your families didn't really go along, it seems like you guys had something there. So like, is this one of those cases where if you guys truly felt a connection and you truly felt like you were the ones for each other, if there wasn't that approval, you guys would have pulled like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing?
Yeah, I think that's so hard to say because we got lucky. Obviously right now I will tell everyone, I was like, hey, like if my parents don't approve of my partner, like that's a big deal for me. And I probably don't want to say like I would have pulled back a little bit more in the beginning, but I guess I would have to hear out my parents' reasoning for it. Like if it was something that I was just like, oh, he's not Chinese, then yeah, I'm going to Romeo and Juliet it out. Like I think that's not okay. But if it was more on the lines of like my parents felt that he was rude or I witnessed him disrespecting my family, like then that's it. Like that's not something I could deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to then go back to the point about values. So obviously you guys have, your own family values. So have you kind of been able to pick from that to be able to kind of create your own values?
Most definitely. So I will have to say, I think at the end of the day, we bring the best out in each other. And it was something I had to learn to be able to show affection. I think in the beginning, he would kind of say really sweet things to me and I wouldn't necessarily know how to react. I would kind of be like, thank you, but now I'm learning that his love language is very much words of affirmation. And I think it comes from his family values. So that's something I'm learning to, I guess, articulate better to him. Like when he does something kind for me, I'll tell him like, thank you so much. You're so kind. I love you, like getting better at those. And yeah, we did kind of create like our own vibe. I think that in terms of like my family were very much straightforward in Chinese culture, and his family is very much straightforward as well. But I'd have to say my boyfriend, he's actually a very non-confrontational person, not confrontational at all. And I'm also not a confrontational person. And I feel like it came from the fact that we were both raised from such straightforward families that we kind of just I don't want to say like stop talking or like confront people, but because of that, I think we both had to work on being overly communicative because I know when we first got into our first I don't want to say like fight, but like debacle. It was a lot about like how he wouldn't say how he felt and I wouldn't say how we felt, because I think growing up all our lives, we always have people confronting us about certain things. So I think as reflection, we're like, you know what, like if we want this to work, like we have to be more communicative and like tell each other like, hey, like this made me really uncomfortable. Like, can we work on it together?
And sometimes it just comes with, putting things into practice and really just making an effort to say, okay, this may be my experience, this may be your experience. So how can we, bridge the gap?
So like, what is your love language?
Ooh. So I would for sure say that I show love by action, because I'm still working on words of affirmation for him, because I know that's what he cares about. But for me, when I show love, like I'll do little things for you. Like I'll drop off lunch for you, or I'll help you pick your sister up if you don't have anybody to pick her up, stuff like that. So I'm definitely an action-oriented person.
Okay, so you show love here like that. And how do you feel love?
It's the same way. Like I feel love when people do little things for me. It's not even so much like materialism. It's not like buying me gifts and stuff. It's more of like opening the door for me. Like I feel like going back to the idea that I am a romanticist, or I tend to romanticize things, that I like it when guys open the door for you, or when they, kiss you on the forehead, like very like light touches, not so much PDA.
I understand. Earlier, you mentioned that you guys are talking about goals that you want to achieve together, even though you have been together only for 10 months. So when did you guys decide to start talking about this?
That's a really good question. I feel like it was more of like hints that I can't really give you a point. Like I think right away we became really comfortable with each other very early on, and I think it makes the conversation a lot easier. I know some people might get backlash and be like, you've only known this guy for under a year. Like, what are you thinking? You're still so young. But I also feel like when you know, you do know. And I told my parents, I'm like I'm not here to mess around, like, because here I'm thinking it's like, okay, I'm dating someone at 24. I want to date them for like maybe 3, 4, 5 years before we get engaged and stuff. So I feel like now's my time. And I feel like this is like both of our peaks. Like we're doing really well career-wise, and we're doing really well family-wise. So it's like just the perfect time to kind of discuss these things. I can't really give you an exact time, if that makes sense.
I do like your answer, because it kind of felt natural from the beginning, and I think that's definitely a good sign. Like when it comes naturally, and like I guess both of you have the right intention to move towards a certain goal, and it just happens naturally. So, are there any language barriers between your families?
So I will say not so much on his end. Like when I visit his family, everyone speaks English. I guess the only language barrier would be with his grandma, which I absolutely adore her. Like all I ever really understand her saying is like she loves me in Spanish. And it's the cutest thing. Like, and I sometimes like she'll just talk. I think she forgets that I don't speak Spanish. So she's just kind of talking to me, and sometimes I'm just nodding. But I think at the end of the day, like you can feel energy and you can feel warmth, and that's all that matters to me. Like the transfer of energy. I would say for him on my side, there is for sure a language barrier, because I mean, all my aunts and uncles, they speak English. But because when we're around my grandparents and they don't speak a lick of English, like it's just out of politeness, we don't speak to them, and we don't speak in English, even if we're talking to each other, because we want grandma and grandpa to understand. So I think a lot of the times he's at the dinner table and he's just like, what's going on? And it's funny because my cousin recently got married to a French Filipino guy, which I love them, and they're kind of just together. Like I have no idea what's going on, but like I said, at the end of the day, it's a transfer of energy, and like he can feel the warmth in the room, and my family also feels like his warmth. Like they always talk about how sweet, how great of a guy he is, and it's not like they talk a lot. I think you can just feel it. I think it's an energy thing.
Yeah, it's not. And how's your Spanish right now?
No bueno.
Well, you know enough to say that.
Right?
No, but I feel Crystal. I mean, obviously different cultures. And so if somebody's open-minded, there's a lot that you can take from this because somebody's adding something to you that is unique to what you already have. So if people are open-minded from that standpoint, I think it could be dope. So goes into my next question though. So like, what are the things that you love most about being in an interracial relationship? And what are some of the challenges that come with that?
I grew up very blessed. My parents always instilled this idea of like appreciating other cultures. So we traveled a lot. I got to know a lot of culture. So I think when I'm so thankful to be dating someone out of my culture, I want to learn from them. I think growing up, we're always taught treat people the way you want to be treated. But I think that's actually a very incorrect thought. It should actually be treat people the way they want to be treated. Because when you're getting welcomed to someone else's home, you have to respect their culture. It's different. Like when he comes to my house, he takes off his shoes. I know it's the Chinese stereotype or Asian stereotype, no shoes in the house, but that's just it. So it's just learning little things. And like at our table, we're during dinners, we're not like allowed to talk that much. I mean, we talk, but like no TV, no interruptions. It's very much a time to gather, and that's something we kind of learn from each other. So I think the beautiful part is just being able to integrate yourself into a new culture with someone to kind of guide you. It's like your own personal tour guide. And it does come with its challenges because I think that in the beginning, like I said, his family is very, very affectionate. They're big on that. My family, not so much. Like we grew up with the idea, it's like, okay, be humble. Like just keep your like thoughts to yourself and that kind of stuff, more reserved. So it was a challenge for us in the beginning because he would say really kind things to me and I just wouldn't know how to reciprocate it or respond in the way that would make him really feel good. And so that's something I'm learning and that's something we kind of have talked about. I'm not trying to blame that on my upbringing. It's just because that's just the way I was raised. It's something I'm learning, you know, like you kind of have to meet halfway. So.
Got it. And what has this experience taught you about yourself or taught you about love in general?
You know what's crazy? It's like people always say love at first sight, but it was not like that for me. I wouldn't say that I fell in love with him at first sight. Like I loved his energy, but I think even in the beginning, like I was kind of questioning it a little bit. But then I realized that like as I spend more time with him and as I see how he interacts with his family, like he's honestly the sweetest. Like he's the oldest out of like, I don't even know how many cousins, but he treats all of them like they're little princesses and princes. And it's moments like that that just make me fall deeper and deeper into love with him. And I didn't know that I didn't know I have that much love to give, you know, and taught me about myself. Oh my God. Definitely communication, because I'm not a confrontational person and I have a bad habit. Like when I get frustrated, I just shut off and I don't want to talk about it. Like I just don't want to talk about it at all. And I'll just kind of start crying, you know, and he's just like, what is going on, you know? And then it's to the point where sometimes it can get a little bit frustrating. Like we'll get into maybe little heated arguments and I just won't talk. I'll just shut him off. But then he kind of told me that it doesn't make him feel good. And he articulated that it's like, he doesn't want, because you never know, you know, like anything can really happen on that drive home. Like nothing was guaranteed in life, you know? So he's like, he never wants our last thing to be said to be hate. So after he told me that and reminded me that every time we're together and we do get into something, I'll make sure that we try to fix it then and there. So we kind of leave each other on positive notes because you really never know. So
I like that. Don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So does this experience help you to improve your communication in other relationships too, like with friends, family, etc.?
Oh, definitely. I think he's a great motivator when it comes to, so for example, like if I got into an argument with my mom, which actually this did happen. Me and my mom, you know, we got into an argument and it didn't go well. Like we didn't talk for 3 weeks and it kind of, because of that negative energy, it kind of influenced our relationship and he noticed something was wrong. And this was, I wouldn't want to say early on, it was maybe like 4 or 5 months in. But I still wasn't ready to open up that part of me, like making him known that like, oh, my family has issues, but it's like every family has problems. But he kind of confronted me about it, and I told him everything that happened, and he was like, listen, like, I get that you don't want to talk to your mom, but at the end of the day, that's your mom. Like, you need to sit her down and talk to her about it. And so that fire was like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to talk to my mom about it. And then now, like, my relationship with my mom is better than ever. So I would have to say I owe that a lot to him.
I like that.
That's good. And that's how it's supposed to be, like two people coming together and challenge each other to become a better person. So a better person individually and also like as a couple. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
So what tips do you have for someone who just started an interracial relationship?
I definitely think this goes back to treat others the way they want to be treated. I think that you have to acknowledge that you're in an interracial relationship, whether it's both of you are born in America, because most people in our age range is first generation, or even if you're not first generation, I think that it's super important to acknowledge that you came from different backgrounds. Even if it's not a race or an ethnicity difference, you're raised differently regardless, and I think acknowledging that up front and being able to talk about it, like what your family likes and dislikes, or what's the proper way to respond to this situation, or when you're meeting someone's parents for the first time, what expectations they would have of you. I think it's a very fair conversation to be had. I don't think that some people think like, oh, it's too much, like whatever. But like, so in Chinese culture, or how I was raised, right? If you're going to meet someone for the first time and you're going to go into someone's house, you're going to bring something. So that was something I had to let him know. I was like, hey, like, babe, like, just to let you know, like, if you're going to meet my parents or grandparents, don't come empty-handed. And so he never comes empty-handed. Like, it's just a thing. And I think it also comes from example, because when I first met his parents, I brought them something. So he saw that and he registered that. And it was very easy for him to do the same. So I think we set examples for each other. And of course, there's going to be times where you feel like they're doing something that's not, I guess, culturally appropriate. But because you're in a relationship together, you have to just let them know, like, hey, like, this isn't what we really do around here. So just don't do that again. Or like, give them a heads up. There's a way to say it. It's all about communication. I mean, don't be rude about it. Don't be like, oh, don't do that again. You know what I mean? But it's just like, hey, like, that's just not something we do here. And then kind of move past it.
Got it.
So what is the meaning of bringing something?
Honestly, like a box of fruit.
Okay.
Or even like a small box of pastries. Like, even like, not even, you don't have to spend like hundreds of dollars. Like, even just $5, just something nice wrapped, maybe like 4 cupcakes. It's not about materialism. I think it's more of the gesture. Okay. And I feel like when you do something kind, it just makes the tension a lot. Like, there's already an icebreaker. You know what I mean? So it's not awkward, like, hey, mom, this is the guy I've been seeing, like, it's just kind of like he already has something to give. So it just loosens everyone up a little bit.
Is it also like a way of showing respect in your culture? Like,
I think it's respect, but I think it's more so just appreciation. Like, thank you so much for having me over at your home.
So, like, do you guys kind of help each other out as far as like giving them a heads up and say, maybe you can bring this as opposed to that or something like that?
Oh, definitely. I love my boyfriend, but he needs a lot of direction. Like, I have to tell him from A to Z. I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do, And that's just how our relationship works, because a lot of him is like, I have no idea what to bring. And I was like, okay, let's just go to the market together and go buy a box of fruit. Like a nice box of fruit from the Chinese market. And it's actually cute because of the pandemic, when we first started dating, all of our dates were literally grocery shopping at Trader Joe's, 99 Ranch Market, Target, Walmart. Like, those were our dates. And we would see each other for maybe like an hour out of the day and like eat lunch in the car. And I don't know, like, I think it's a cute story that we could potentially tell our kids in the future. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. And then real quick though, you kind of said something earlier about like doing things that are culturally appropriate. How do you guys avoid cultural appropriation, since that seems to be a hot topic as well these days?
Honestly, if I'm going to be transparent with you, I think that's something that I'm trying to instill in my uncles and aunts. Because I don't think it's meant to be offensive, but I think in the Chinese culture or Chinese language, I don't know if you heard, like, the way things are translated, it's very much straightforward. Like if you were to translate it into English, the direct translation is horrible, but that's not the intention of these comments. So I think it's like a lot of education to my family, but it's also, it's nice because my boyfriend, he doesn't take it offensively. Like even my cousin, I think my cousin and her husband told him to wear a poncho to our taco dinner party. And he legit did it. He was like, I'm down. Like, I think there's a difference when it's like you're proud of your culture that you I don't know. I think it's per person. I think because my cousin and her husband and the four of us, we dated a lot, and like we double dated a lot. So they have a really good relationship. So they kind of, I don't want to say it's okay to joke about those things, but it's more open with us. And I think he knows that it's not meant to be offensive. But I will say, like, my family for the longest time was like, when is Marlon going to cook us tacos? And I'm like, but I think it's the same thing because his family, they, the first thing they asked me is like, can you make Chinese food? And I don't think it's meant to be taken offensively. So I get that it's a hot topic, but I think to each their own. It's your own threshold. Would I encourage just like these kinds of comments outside of the house? No, because sometimes I can understand that where it might be offensive to some people. But I think when you've kind of established that relationship and it's okay to be open as long as the person is not offended by it, I think it's okay. And I hope I'm not offending anybody by saying that. But
well, no, I mean, it's your experiences and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you said it best. It's to each his own. So, like, if let's say you learn to do the mariachi, you know what I'm saying, and you guys want to do that in public, it really shouldn't bother anybody.
Exactly.
Some people might take offense to that for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I think there is a difference when someone is genuinely interested. You know what I mean? When somebody shows curiosity for real and shows respect. And I think when you can feel that, none of this should actually be such a big deal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And especially like you mentioned earlier that you traveled a lot, and so when you travel, you absorb things, you learn to appreciate other cultures, all of that. So yeah, I think it comes down to what is in your heart.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, so I want to then follow up with something else. Like as far as like affection, what role does culture play in that?
In affection?
Yeah.
Um
Like even like stuff like PDA, different things like that.
That's actually that's a really good point because one of the first things I told Marlon when I was going to bring him over to meet my family for the first time, I was like, I get that at your house, it's okay to like hold hands and like sit on each other's lap and like hug and stuff. But I was like, in my family, we're not really, not saying we're not open that, but it's just, I would have to be honest, like it's kind of frowned upon if you're too touchy, like it's a bit much. So that's something I said. I was like, hey, like when it's you and me, it's fine. But it's like in front of my family, I'd appreciate it if we just kind of keep our hands to ourselves and just, that's where that is. And he's awesome. Like he's very respectful about that. Like I think the most he'll do is like give me like a kiss on my forehead when he sees me, and like he'll hug my family and stuff like that. It was funny actually because when he met my grandpa, he gave my grandpa a hug, and my grandpa was not used to receiving hugs because in like the Chinese culture, it's like the man of the house. They don't do hugs or anything like that. So my grandpa was just like, and then he was just like, it was just awkward, but it was funny. Like we laugh about it now. It was just like that. But like even conversations about intimacy, like his family is very open to talking about like sex and stuff like that. And that's just not something we talk about in our Chinese culture. Like we don't even use that word. It's like just all innuendos. Like my mother says enjoyment or having fun, or like even when there's like a sex scene on the, like I have to whisper right now to say this because like even when there's like a sex scene on a movie, like it's awkward. So it was different when his family would just openly talk about it out of the air, and like his mom and dad would crack jokes. I was like, wow, this is so different. And it's nice because I feel like it's gotten me more comfortable with the topic and more open about it. It's kind of like bringing me out of my shell. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like, even when he was like, wait, like, so you guys just don't talk about sex. I'm like, I don't even know when we've ever even used that word in this house. Like,
That was so funny. Having fun, yeah. No, this was really really interesting. I enjoyed learning about your relationship, about the different values and stuff. That was very very nice.
Yeah, and just to add a little
Mhm.
bit more context, like we've known Crystal now for like maybe 2-3 years, and like what you guys are seeing right now on screen is exactly how she's in real life. So I love it.
thank
I love it.
That's more.
Yeah. So, Crystal, where can someone find you online?
Yeah, so they can follow me on at What's Wong Crystal. That's gonna be my Instagram, and that's gonna be the best way to contact me. So if you want to hit me up, I love talking to people. You can ask Jeremiah and Vania.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, Crystal, again, thank you for everything that you brought to us today and just everything that you shared with us. Hopefully, this will impact some people in a positive way. So we appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys, and I had a lot of fun.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our show for today.
Thanks again for tuning in.
And as always, like it or not, Beard and Curls is the new his and hers.